Hello and welcome to Voice of the Fat Mantis. I am your host, the Fat Mantis, and today we have a very special episode of Shows to Astonish. As you know, we've been hitting up the crazy Star Wars trend ever since The Mandalorian has returned to Disney+. Now, we know there are different people out there in the world who make Star Wars happen, whether they're writers, directors, actors, people who create comic books, writers, retail artists, and I'm going to bring you a very special one that helps the world of Star Wars happen. I'm here with my man, good friend of the show, Courtney Monroe. Hello, Courtney.
What's up, man? I'm glad to be a part of this thing. Fantastic to be here.
How are you doing today?
Man, I am great. It's just a good time to be alive, you know, especially if we're considering the subject matter of today's show.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. The things that have been happening recently, like it's a reinvigoration of being a Star Wars fan. And for years, it's been dreadful to be a Star Wars fan. Like, I feel like I'm one of those nerds. I go to Comic-Con with a Star Wars fan shirt, and they're going to throw a slushie on me. You know, a nerd will do that to me because they're like we're the lesser fandom. But
Yeah.
now you walk with honor to be like, yeah, I'm happy to be a Star Wars fan. So why don't you do me a favor and just tell everyone quickly what it is exactly you do? What special part of Star Wars world do you bring to the populace?
Oh, man. Okay. So I provide, and this is legit for those who don't know, okay? I sometimes get chuckles about it. So I actually provide training in lightsaber martial arts, lightsaber fencing.
Right, and you guys are known as the Saber Light Knights.
That's
located
right.
out in Charlottesville, Virginia, correct?
That is correct. That is the name of my organization and of my group. Saber Light Knights is it, good sir.
And so you are a martial arts clone or dojo or just studio, basically.
Yeah, so it is that. And due to the nature of this community that I speak of, it has started to even expand beyond that. But at its core, that is exactly what it is. It is martial arts, fencing, swordsmanship, weapons-based combat, but it's with lightsabers and a little bit of that extra Star Wars love kind of intermixed in there as well.
You know, it's a beautiful blending of like two hobbies. Now, I'll tell the audience out there that me and Courtney are kung fu brothers. We trained since we were no sashes at the Laughing Dragon Academy out in Charlottesville, and you know, we grew up together. We went all the way through the program together. Good friends. And I too was skeptical. I moved away from Charlottesville. I was totally skeptical. I knew you did it, and I was like, oh, I guess he's just making a fast buck or whatever. So I came down for a visit a couple years ago for Charlottesville, and you're like, you're coming to a training session. And I was like, okay. And yo, it is legit. And I'm going to be honest, I used to be one of those guys who would give the little chuckle when they're like, oh, we train in lightsabers. I was like, okay. But so first thing I want to let you know, they're athletes. These people are serious athletes.
Yeah, man.
There are some guys who are so good at it. And it's clearly just a martial arts. You're learning stepping, stances, footwork, what to do in a fight. And you know, you work up a sweat and you will learn something by the end of that class.
That's it. Yeah.
Doing it with a lightsaber. And so tell us about the quality of these lightsabers. Is this one of those cool ones that the kids
So that's actually a good part, and I actually want to speak about this. So the lightsabers that we use, they are not like your typical Hasbro, you know, knockoff, spin-off movie stamp of approval thing, right? So these things are legitimate weapons of destruction. Like you could you know, assault somebody with these things, right? So basically here's what they are. So the hilts, depending on, you know, who you buy them from, where you get them from, I can touch more on that in a little bit. They can range in design. A lot of people tend to use, you know, movie props, movie replicas, and then a lot of these guys out here in this community building these things create and print and design and lay their own sort of, you know, hilts and stuff like that. And they're typically always made of metal, aluminum, aircraft aluminum, okay? Within these hilts, there's a whole bunch of new technology coming out. You know, you have the light. It kind of functions like a flashlight, but then you have the guys on the other side who are inventing these crazy things. They have boards that you can program with sound fonts. And they're so sensitive that if you move it just a slight bit, it'll It'll flash if you hit it. It flickers. The speaker quality on these things are fantastic. And then the blades that we use, they're made of polycarbonate. Polycarbonate, if you are not aware, are what police actually use for their riot shields, and they're also their batons. So there are some that are so thick that you could roll over with a car tire. You could roll them over, and they may have like a crack in them. So these
Yo,
things
I
are
was
100%
impressed with how
legit.
durable and how hard you could hit with them.
Oh
And I
yes,
remember I was going soft at first because I was like, it's a piece of electronics.
yeah.
And my opponents would be like, I remember there was one guy, yeah, there was one kid who was like OD using his strength, almost like he was like, and I kept being like, you don't swing your entire back into it, man.
Oh,
It was like he was trying to kill me or something.
I remember that was James. Yeah, we deal with
It was
that
a good time.
constantly.
Yeah.
He's
But
a
it
dark
was
side.
impressive. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
No, I felt his rage. I felt his rage. He had much rage in him, much fear and rage. So for those of you who don't know, you need to check this out because I
Yeah.
believe this isn't just some random Charlottesville creation. This is all over the place, right?
That is right. So this actually started, what's this, 2020? So the first real lightsaber training that I am aware of began back in 2012 with a very popular organization based out in Michigan. And they were providing like YouTube tutorials for everything that they do. To really quickly kind of back up about exactly what this training is. Uh, so it started kind of as a thing, I think, when the prequel trilogy started around Attack of the Clones. There was an article released, I believe it was called Fight Saber. And within this article, I think it was officially authorized. Uh, the author, just had descriptions of the different styles of lightsaber fighting, right? So, like in
Right.
the real world, how you have different styles of fencing, different styles of combat. Apparently, within the Star Wars universe, there are also 7 different styles of martial arts that you can learn as a Jedi, as a Sith, whatever you use a lightsaber. These are styles that you learn to master the lightsaber. Okay, so that became an integrated part of the Star Wars lore. And then you would see it sort of, moved into the video games, into the comic books, and then into a book that was written relatively recently. It's called The Jedi Path. Uh, and within it, you have detailed articles. I wish I had my copy with me now. I'd show it to you. And it has all the styles. There's 7 different styles: Shicho, Makashi, Sarisu, Ataru, Jimso, Naiman, and Juyo. And then that
And Juyo
also
is also Vapad, right?
and then yes, the variant of Vapad, which was created by Mace Windu.
Maces.
So Juyo is essentially the dark side form, right? It's the no form for anyone who's a Jedi, and then for the dark siders, that's like their steeds. It's basically the idea of ferocity, right? That's the word. Like there's no defense; it's just attack, beat it until it's dead, and then keep beating it again, right?
So I remember because like I'm a KOTOR guy, and I
Yeah,
remember that was a major part of KOTOR. Like you could learn the different fighting arts, and like depending on which fighting art you had on, they didn't use the fancy words. They used like the ones like they were like resilience,
resilience
contention,
form. Yep.
like stuff like that. Like,
Yep.
but that was cool. That was very cool.
Absolutely, and yeah, that's still a thing. And actually, those forms, it's actually the perfect way I found to teach this whole thing. Now, like you mentioned earlier, you and I go back, man. We came up together training in Chinese martial arts. And then, even before that, I've been training in martial arts, and since then I've continued and I've learned some other things. I've worked with one of my favorite people in the world, man. He's a modern day knight, and I was able to learn under him and learn some German longsword, some historical European martial arts. I've been lucky enough to learn some Filipino stick and knife fighting, and then there's also some of my other kung fu colleagues, cohorts. I've been able to learn some good stuff under them, and then all traditional weapons we learn together. And these 7 forms actually present the perfect way, the perfect method for me to teach, because it allows me to take all the things that I've learned and categorize them in a way that's easily teachable to everyone. Okay.
Right.
So
So you're saying
yeah,
you're taking actual legit martial arts training in terms of a sword play or baton play, and you're actually teaching these people those maneuvers.
That's
So you're
exactly
not
right.
just some guy swinging a stick.
That's
Not that
precisely it.
kid from the internet running around.
The-
I just want to make sure the viewer knows that that's not what you're doing. You're just
oh
not,
no,
you're not
yes.
charging people to swing a stick. Okay.
Oh yes. So no, these are legit martial arts. Everything that I teach has been used in a fight at some point or another in the existence of this planet, in the existence of martial arts. And it's everything I learned. I don't teach anything that I don't know myself. You know, I'm not an internet warrior like a lot of people. But you
A
know,
lot of that going on.
but yeah, and it just, you know, I fit everything in where I feel it works well for that, for the description of the art, for the description of the style. And you know, it just presents a very unique opportunity to blend both of these worlds. We also have a ranking system that is also in the mix too. So, you know, as you progress, you know, you get a personality test, right? And depending on where you lay with that, you can choose the path that better suits you, which will then affect your training. So if you go the light side way, you know, we'll you know, maybe develop your technique a bit better. You know, maybe work on your mental fortitude, you know,
And
reflective
so,
exercise, that sort of thing. But then on the other side, your training will be more physical. All right. You know, you'll be working your arms, your legs a bit more. The leveling up in that area depends on your actual skill as a combatant. You know, if you're able to beat, you know, who you need to beat, that's how you advance in that way. And then you make your way on up into mastery, even though I don't really like
yeah,
that
and
word.
for anyone who thinks that this is nonsense going on, so um my first kung fu school was actually down in New York City, down on 28th Street, and it was called the Wushu Temple. And so it was a super kung fu school. You know, a lot of schools you go to when they're like mom and pop places, there's like one or two styles that they teach. You know, they'll do that like one or two styles and then Tai Chi or something. And then, however, these guys knew, like, they had a collective amongst their masters, easily like 20, 25 different kung fu styles. And so what it is the first few forms were the same for everybody, but once they got to know you after the 2-year process of learning them, the next forms you would learn were individually customized to you.
That's right.
So they would be like, "Oh, you look like you're a Southern Mantis guy," and they're like, "No, but but your best friend who started with you looks like a White Crane guy. He acts like a White Crane guy. So we're going to teach him that." And so you would gain an individual learning process, and I actually think that's the best way to do martial arts. If you're blessed to go to a place where someone has a vast knowledge of martial arts, which you know your students are blessed that you do.
Oh man, much appreciated, man. And it's exactly that way. By the end of it, the whole goal is for you to, it's an old kung fu adage, you learn it all and then you forget it all. Okay. So you learn it, you forget it, and you have your own thing. That's the whole idea. Okay. You take the tools that I give you, because that's what they are. They're just tools. They're not gospel. You adapt them to you, and then by the end of it, you have your own unique way of communicating with your weapon, you know, against another person's skull, and then they're not so crazy. You know what I mean?
Actually, no, but you know, you're
Yeah,
right, because it's like the Bruce Lee thing that he says, you know, learn everything you can, and he's just like, forget what you don't need. Just keep using what works for you. And
exactly.
in life, that's actually how it works. Because I find myself, I do, you know, I end up doing a lot of, I always fall back on a lot of long fist. But
Yeah,
sometimes I'm watching YouTube videos and someone will do something in long fist, and I'm like, yeah, I learned that, and I can't remember ever using it. And it's great that it works for you. Wouldn't use that.
exactly.
You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
you got to customize it to your own personal thing. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, that's what I love about martial arts in general, but then this whole different world that, you know, I've been blessed enough to be a part of. It like really takes it to another, you know, extreme, and in the immersion of it, you know, that's an aspect that I really appreciate. And I think above all else, from the martial aspect, is, you know, we train in these martial arts and we learn these things, right? And then a lot of these we're able to take it and then apply it like out in the real world in different ways. You know, it might get you fit in one way, it might help your mental fortitude. You could throw down if there's ever an issue that you have a problem with. But then you look at these traditional weapons, these weapons that we learn, and we're not going to walk around like with a bow staff on our back or you know, a gin sheathed at our side. Like we can't do that anymore, right? Like
You're
that's
right.
But where I am able to take, we're able to take these traditional arts that we would otherwise not make much use of and use them in this whole world. So this is a whole way of taking these old traditional arts and bringing them back in a way that's practical that we can use, right?
I mean,
So
absolutely. I mean, you
yeah.
guys are competing. You guys are competing. That's one thing. And then, you're doing even sparring. You're going to learn something from that,
Exactly.
and it's good. I mean, honestly, the best weapons to ever know, I would just say in general for the real world are like batons, short swords, knives, or like staves, because you can always makeshift those out
Yep.
there. You can
Right.
always find a stick somewhere in some way,
Exactly.
whether it's a mop or what a broom or whatever, or something that's a baton. You can so many things double as a baton. It's not even funny. Like a flashlight or something. So
Yep.
those are always practical things. But it's true. You don't learn like when you do kung fu. You eventually learn crazy stuff like a spear or the Quan Dao. The chances of you ever getting in a fight with a Quan Dao are pretty slim. For those of you who don't know what a Quan Dao is. So I would say that but it's just awesome to know that.
Yep.
If I'm ever like a wizard ever sends me back in time, I can pick up a halberd and just murder everyone.
And you're good, man. Like
I'm good.
you're straight. You're good to go. And look, to take to the immersive side of it with the lightsaber, right? Look at it as a weapon. Okay, it's a handle. It's a hilt by itself that emits a blade that is sharp on all sides, right? So there's no false edge, there's no true edge. The entire edge of it, the whole thing can cut you, and it could stab you with the tip, right? That is the perfect universal weapon for most, if not all, weapons-based styles of combat that we have. I mean, it works with everything. It works with Kali. It works with German longsword. It works with the rapier. It works with Chinese straight sword. It is literally usable within all of our real world weapons because it's like the ultimate killing tool, right?
Yeah, anything you could carry around. And I hate to put myself on blast right now. But but I'm gonna do it. I gotta do it. That's what this show was about. No, I take long walks, particularly at night and stuff. And so I don't know if you know, but like for many, many years, like since like the 80s, nunchucks have been illegal in New York State. And so a couple of years ago, it got overturned as unconstitutional.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You can't restrict weapons that aren't firearms in New York State. That's what the New York Supreme Court has decided. And so when they came back, I was like, I'm carrying nunchucks with me everywhere I go. Maybe not everywhere. Like I don't bring them to church or anything like that. But if I'm taking a long walk, because the good thing about it is you can fold it and put it in your back pocket, put it in your coat pocket, whatever, and not scare people. But you always have something on you. So it's very just for in terms of self-defense. It's always good to to understand what can be used as a weapon and to always have it in reachable.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely. I mean, it's just like the world's coolest. The whole idea of a lightsaber is like the world's coolest switchblade, man. Like you just pull the thing out and just, and then you're good to go. And then there you go. But anyway, man, that's what I love about this podcast. Of course, I've listened to every episode, but I love how we could talk and then throw it back to the original question. So the question was regarding the whole activity, and my first time of being aware of it was back in 2012.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's amazing. And so, real quick, little story. Phantom Menace. So this was back when I was living in the city. Phantom Menace. What is it? It's 99, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's 99. So like me and my friends found out, and we, this was I think the Ziegfeld closed down, but the Ziegfeld, at least I haven't been to the Ziegfeld in many years, but the Ziegfeld is the biggest theater at the time in New York City. It was just notorious for that. And so me and my friends are like, we are getting tickets for opening day, and we're gonna, Phantom Menace, Star Wars is back, yeah. And we go the day it opened. They're selling tickets weeks in advance. We show up. There's already a line around the block. Ooh. People were had prepared with tents and stuff, and they're all on the streets. And we're like, oh man, this sucks. The kids the first people sitting there was a Boy Scout troop. And so what ends up happening is the third people in line, my boy Sully knew them. And we're like, oh, what is this? He happened to know them. I didn't know them. And they're like, yo, what? And they're like, why don't you chill? They're like, hop on with us. So what it is that it wasn't going to go on. It was going to go on sale for like 2 days later, and we rotated who was keeping track of our tent.
Nice,
Some people
man.
would sleep, and then you take shifts and you'd leave or whatever. But during this period, people all brought plastic lightsabers, and this before they were the fancy ones you're talking about. Those were the little ones that you flip out. And people were like, the Boy Scouts were doing it, other people were doing it, and they were organizing these kind of like Street Fighter fight. And so, you know, I wasn't a kid at the time, but I wasn't an adult. You know what I mean? Like at the time, so
the golden age.
So we got our lightsabers, and we would you know, throughout those 2 days we were just messing around, and everyone's just having a good time whacking each other with lightsabers. It was beautiful, man.
Yeah, man.
It was a good time. It was a good time.
Yeah, that's typically how it is, man. Like it is literally, you know, because of the nature of these newer ones that, you know, we were talking about. You know, they're legit weapons, so we have to gear up. And even after that, you know, if one slides through and you actually get hit in the ribs, you know, sometimes people have gotten one in the neck. Even after it's over, you come in and you hug and you're patting.
You feel alive. I mean,
and it's just beautiful, man. Like you just had a lightsaber duel, a legit one, you know, with actual technique and form. And how could you not feel good after that?
Yeah, no, that's refreshing.
You know,
another thing I gotta say that I was impressed with your students
yeah,
is, you know, you do your lesson, and which is a lot of martial arts do. They do the lesson, and at the end, the last like 45 minutes or sometimes an hour, they'll be like, "It's sparring day. We're gonna spar." And I don't know if you spar every class, but you know, I was blessed enough to go to one, and so everyone's bringing out their personal gear, and they have their armor and their suit up, but they stylize it and they put their art and they put Star Wars insignias on it. And there's some kids who consider themselves Sith, and they have all black gear and they have a Sith flag coming out their side, and they get up in these get-ups, and they're so into it. It's really beautiful. It's an art form, really, what they're doing with their gear.
Yeah. So again, man, you just bringing the love out of me. I'm glowing right now. So that's a beautiful part of this activity, because of how fantastic it is, it has caused like a ripple effect. So all of these other art forms and activities and hobbies and stuff have grown from it. And one of the things is because of the gear it requires for the type of dueling that we do, you are required to wear certain things. You need a fencing mask, gloves, something to protect your chest, you know, cup, leg protectors. But a lot of people customize these things, like you know, Roy was just saying, and they do different themes with them. Me personally, you know, I pay homage to my Chinese roots, so I have the Monkey King, you know, on my mask, and yeah, I have it on my
That's
arm,
awesome.
fur on my arm, and stuff like that. And you know, that's the way it is for a lot of us. And one of my members actually got into leather working, and he's actually pretty good. He charges for his services. And that's just one of those things that have rippled out.
He'll make you customize leather armor and stuff.
Leather armor of Smokey's Armory, Ryan McKenna. He's one of my higher ranked members, and yeah, he spent his time, his talent, you know, transitioning it over to that, as well as what we do with the martial arts and the combat. And he's learned how to work with leather and build actual leather armor, high quality.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's just one of those things that just adds to it. One of my other members, actually his brother Clay, he's one of our saber smiths. So he's able to build you know, these sabers that, you know, we have been talking about. You customize sound fonts on them. You know,
wow,
that's
awesome.
It's good stuff.
That is totally awesome. I assume you're not allowed to in combat, in actual competition, you're not allowed to throw kicks and punches, right?
So no kicks and punches.
If you lock somebody's blade, you can't just punch them.
I would love to maybe one day include that. In fact, I'm even wondering if I should include an aspect of Terrace Kazi. Okay, for those who aren't familiar, that's a bare knuckle form of martial arts in Star Wars. I remember in the EU, it was a way for non-force sensitive. Actually, I think that's still the case. Where non-force sensitive people could fight force users. And actually, in the movie that shall not be named, I'm just joking, The Last Jedi.
I knew which one you were referring to. That's right. They say that they're Terrakasi,
the Praetorian Guards.
Masters.
Yeah, the reason they were able to fight with Kylo Ren and Rey is because they were trained in Terrace Kazi. it affects your mind in a way that you can resist like telepathic,
Predictions
suggestions.
of your moves and stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly, and you're able to actually fight hand to hand.
I mean, those guys. I mean, that was the best scene in that movie. That was the best thing that came out of the
I
movie.
mean, it was shot very well. I'm not mad at that scene. I mean,
Yeah, no. I
it
mean,
was good.
it's
Enjoyed it,
beautiful. It's beautiful.
but
But I love it. You said, that.
look,
I
man.
probably shouldn't get into this. But probably every couple of like every 2 weeks, something will remind me of that movie, and I'll just become bitter, and I'll like hate that man who made it, and I'll
So,
be like, I hope he chokes on a chicken bone.
and
Something.
honestly, you're not the only one. I mean, millions of nerds tried to force choke this man from the theater, and what Obi-Wan says is if millions of souls cried out in agony. That's what we all were when that when that movie dropped. And look,
Oh man.
here's the thing. Um, as a film, I would honestly not. I would say that it wasn't awful as a film. As a film,
I agree. I
I
agree. I
would
think
not.
it's good as a film.
Absolutely. Like I get it. But when the opening scene is Luke Skywalker taking Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber and just tossing it over his shoulder into the sea below him, yeah, that's not how you win people over. You
No,
don't
no,
win
no.
people over that way.
So I'm just gonna say that, like, as a film, you're right. I think Ryan Johnson is a crafty filmmaker. I just rewatched Knives Out the other night.
Love that
I'm a
movie.
big fan of Brick. Brick was a great movie from back in the day. Um, so I think he's a great filmmaker, and he made a good film there. The thing is that it was the second part of a trilogy, and so I know he was trying to defy expectations. However, he left the characters in the exact same places that they were at the beginning of the movie, making the movie pointless.
Mm,
And the thing is you have so much territory to make up in 3 movies. You can't waste a single episode.
that's
And
right.
it was a complete and utter waste.
It was.
Other than that, they also, just like they took a big gnarly dump on Han and Leia in the first one, they
Mm.
continued to do it with Luke, and they just decided to destroy their legacies.
Mm.
Right? So like Han and Leia taught us what love is, and we're like, a scoundrel can love a woman. This is one a princess. This is lovely. And then they're like,
Exactly.
well, guess what, kids? They got divorced, and he abandoned her.
And they never got to say goodbye.
Got to say goodbye.
Mm.
And he abandoned her with a kid. And we were like, what? And then they're like, well, Luke Skywalker making everything better. And they're like, you remember how he was the most hopeful, good person? He's completely given up hope. He's letting the galaxy burn.
Oh my,
That's who he is. And oh, by the way, he thought for even a moment about killing his nephew.
oh my gosh, so
And
bad.
so you're like, what is happening? And so they continue to do that. And so that's not how you win over a fan base.
No. In fact, I would even go out on a limb and say, from the inception of the sequel trilogy, all the people at Disney or who Disney appointed to represent Star Wars have done is alienate the fans.
Yes.
Now,
And,
and here's the thing: I want to make it clear that from my personal point of view, I don't share this much, but my personal point of view is I'm open to anything that could work. Okay, like if it's a good idea, it's a good idea, and I'm all for it. I'm not one of those neckbeards that it's a Star Wars and it has to be this way. Like no,
right. I hate it when they're like, wait, they're established ways to use the Force. You can't use the. I'm like, what are you talking about? They change the way the Force is used every week, man.
Exactly. I'm not that way. So
Right.
but from the inception, you have Kathleen Kennedy, who has not necessarily proven herself to be the one that needs to run this thing. Pissing off the fan base by calling the Force female and doing all this crazy stuff.
Right. And when people are like, well, what do you say to your regular fans who've been there for years? And she's like, I don't care about them. I don't care what they say. And I'm like,
you can't do that. You can't do that. Okay. It's
and
just
so
not good business.
and what really happened is she put it on autopilot. I could, she's, if you, I don't, if you look throughout the 80s and 90s, you'll see endless movies that you didn't even realize she's a producer on. She's a producer of Back to the Future, man.
Kathleen Kennedy?
Yeah, she goes way back. She wasn't just Star Wars. She was anything basically. Steven Spielberg and Lucas was. She has tons of projects around them. She is a veteran producer. So I don't. The only way I could see it is that she had such faith in JJ and Ryan. she let them do whatever they want, and she didn't hover over them, which she should have. She should have said, "Are you sure you want Han to abandon Leia? Are you sure that's the image you want?" Or she should have been like, "Is Luke kind of a dick right now?" Like, you know what I mean? And to save that, and that's one of producer's main jobs, is to save the branding, the branding. So the director is keeping within brand. So you know, in that, if people are like, well, you can't blame her. Like my sister loves to blame JJ and Ryan solely. I'm like, no, they had a boss above them, and that boss's job should have been like rein them in.
And you're a million% correct. And then my argument to that, you know, we were going to eventually go there anyway. But if we look over at Marvel now, while the quality of some of the movies may be up and down, it is consistent. Okay. And the reason why is because you have Kevin Feige, the devil himself.
Right.
You know, he's there, and he's the one that provides the oversight, and he keeps it. That's what Star Wars needs. Star Wars needs a Kevin Feige to keep it in line.
And Kathleen Kennedy proved not to be that. And so, and when it is, because she should have been that, but she didn't do that. I mean, she collected her paychecks, but she, you know, and like the thing that's funny is like Rian Johnson kept on saying like, I'm trying to defy expectations. I'm going to defy expectations. You know, Kevin Feige is successful because he follows through on expectations. He gives us what we want to see. Right. Even if he kills a character, he'll be like, well, I'm going to give them a heroic, cool moment. Yeah. They're not going to give their son a hug and suddenly get stabbed in the chest and their whole legacy be done. You know what I mean? Like
100%, 100%.
I'm fine with them killing Han. Just do it. Have him being a hero while doing it.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, is that so hard?
And he didn't even get like a funeral. Like he just plummeted to his death, and we never saw his corpse again. Like it's just
undignified.
It's just so bad. Like it's so bad. And I think what honestly hurt me, it hurt the community at large. But I think our expectations got in our way a little bit with Luke Skywalker, because not only did we wait just decades to see him again, but they tease him at the end of The Force Awakens. Like they give us a couple seconds.
That was the greatest ending to any movie ever.
I mean,
when she sees him and she's like,
and they were salivating, like, oh my God, like we can't wait to see what happens. And we wait 2 more years after that, and then he just, and we're like, oh my! I heard confused muttering when I was in the theater. I heard one guy softly go, what? And I saw him like whispering over his friend, and I'm like, uh-oh. And just throughout the movie, he's a grumpy, codger old man. Luke Skywalker, the man who wouldn't kill the most evil creature in the galaxy. Like he wouldn't even kill Sidious, right? Like he threw his lightsaber down.
Right, and wouldn't fight him. And so, like, you know, Vader has destroyed multiple planets and been involved in multiple genocides, and he wouldn't kill him. But he thought about killing his nephew just because his nephew has bad dreams. I mean, what is good? But like, yo, I want to point something out about Rian Johnson and why he is such a horrible person and does not deserve happiness. So in this age, and I don't know if you're allowed to call yourself a feminist if you're a guy. I probably shouldn't use this word, but let me put it like this: I like to protect women. I like to look out for women. You know what I'm saying? Like we should. It's on our part.
Absolutely.
And so when I analyze his films, I can't help but feel that Rian Johnson is a sexist, and I'll tell you why. Right. So if you notice, his 2 biggest films are Last Jedi and Knives Out, and they have the exact same problem. It is marketed and shown that the main character is a woman, but he doesn't give the character an arc. He gives the arc to a male that's next to her. So that the male does all the things in it, and she's just there for the ride. And so if you notice, one of the things that's boring about everyone's like, Daisy Ridley's boring. She's not boring. Rey is boring because she doesn't do anything in The Last Jedi. She stands around. As a matter of fact, she takes one action. And that action is she goes to see Kylo Ren, but only because her mean boyfriend negs her into doing it. He's abusive and mean to her. So then she's like, I'll show up to the...
I'm going to say
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's her only action throughout the entire thing. She makes no decision worth anything. However, they gave the story arc to Luke Skywalker. The problem is Luke already had his chance of having arcs. He's had 3 wonderful arcs. His story is done. His job is to be a peripheral character. Her job is supposed to have an arc and a story. And they do the same thing with Knives Out. Did you see it?
I did.
Yeah, so that's that Spanish girl, the freaking nurse. a mystery is going around and she's been framed, but she stands around and lets the man find out what's happening with her, and she never figures it out. And at the end, he has to sit down and explain to her how she's been saved. She's not even active in saving her own life. And so this leads me to believe that Rian Johnson is a sexist.
Look, it's valid. It's 100% valid. And look, if you take that and actually look at the Last Jedi again, you're 100% right about Luke. But when I look at that movie too, I see Kylo Ren, and he is one of the only characters who actually had like an arc in that movie, right? Like he went from being, second fiddle punk to being the leader of the First Order by the end of it. Killed the main villain.
Absolutely.
And, and it looked like
he had an arc. You're right.
He did. It looked like Rian Johnson's whole plan for him was to make him the bad guy with no redemption.
Right.
And I appreciated that one aspect of The Last Jedi. I actually like Kylo Ren in that movie.
That is the one thing that I like, because it defies the Vader trope that he's being a Vader, but he did something Vader didn't do. He killed his boss and took the throne.
That's
and
right.
that was the cool, and he manned up basically.
Yep.
When you're right, in the opening scenes, he goes and bows before his master, and his master shoots him with a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
He says, "You're a little punk ass bitch. Take your helmet off. Take that ridiculous thing off." And he makes him feel like a little boy or whatever. But Kylo gets sick of that. He's like, you know what? I'm sick of taking orders.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's like, I got my woman on my side, and now I'm gonna kill him, and I'm gonna rule this galaxy. I loved it. I think we all loved it.
And I think we did. For all that movie's flaws, I will give it the fact that, Snoke dying, we did not expect. I mean, when he got halved with that lightsaber, I think everyone's mouth was like, whoa.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Effing amazing. That was very good. That was really good. And I'm going to say this, the crime of the rise, the rise of Skywalker. I'm not going to say that what happened, the storyline is the crime. It's not the crime. The biggest crime in it is that they didn't reference back other Star Wars. So my idea is, like, for instance, in the Colin Trevorrow's original script, the final battle takes place on Coruscant. And for some reason, when JJ was making a new script, he said, no, let's take that out. Why is the final battle on Exegol? It is makes poetic sense to end it on Coruscant.
Yep.
Or for instance, when she communes with the Jedi, why do you not show us the ghost of the Jedi? How is that not obvious what everyone wants to see?
Super missed opportunity. Yep.
It's totally insane. So if you had these little things in it, it would have made vastly more sense. Just reference back to Star Wars. That's what we want to see. Exactly. Or like, about the original death of, which is brilliant. I can't believe they missed it. Original death of Hux.
No, what was it?
So in it, the whole storyline is like, the First Order has finally made it to Coruscant, and they've taken over Coruscant. And Hux has his office on Coruscant, in a building in Coruscant. And when you go into his office, he's collected all these Jedi artifacts, and he has a wall of lightsabers. And he has his most prized possession, a lightsaber on his desk, which is Mace Windu's.
What?
Lightsaber. And so later on, when they find out that he's the spy that lets them go, they're coming to arrest him, and he knows they're coming to arrest him. So he takes it, and he commits suicide, turns it on his own chest, and they find him dead with the purple lightsaber through his chest. And it was like, and when I read that, I was like, how was that not the way you wanted him to die?
I mean, honestly, that is fantastic.
That is fantastic. And so it's great that he commits suicide rather than putting whatever punishment they go through. Yeah. But also it references back with Mace's thing and all that stuff. It would have been perfect. It would have been a total perfect.
Oh my gosh, man. You're exactly right. We need that continuity in our Star Wars, because it's the nostalgia and the memories that make this all so special to everybody. And And
it's okay that the other ones didn't necessarily do that much. Mm-hmm. However, it is the last chapter of Star Wars. You need to reference back.
Tie it in, baby. All I'm saying.
And that's why Lucas had the second Death Star, because he wanted to remind people of the legacy that goes back to the original Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
Star Wars itself, man, it is one of those few, stories, one of those few worlds that up until Disney bought it. I mean, even till now, it was so rich. It was so intricately woven and so rich with content. and writing and contributions over the years that it felt like it was a real world. I mean, it's just so much that was in Star Wars that just tied it all together beautifully. It's just one of those fantastic things. And it leads me back again to why people were so upset with The Last Jedi. Me personally, I was looking forward to seeing Luke Skywalker the most. And needless to say, I was disappointed. We all wanted to see him as a badass Jedi master, right? What did he learn after all these years? We wanted to see him like take out the Knights of Ren by himself easily with one hand tied behind his back. We wanted one moment of him just being a badass. And I will tell you this, at the end of the movie, when he does his force projection, right? I know, you know, you're not necessarily an EU fan, right? Not necessarily, but you know,
I'm old EU. I'm old EU. I'm not new. I don't like a new EU.
I got you. Well, in some of that older stuff, man, he was on some Superman level, like force ability, right?
Yeah.
And I was fully expecting to see something like that. So when he stepped out and those AT-ATs were firing at him and he just walks out of the smoke completely untouched, like I almost died from excitement.
Right.
Like I'm like, oh my God, we're getting EU Luke. You know, this is fantastic. And then they pan to him, you know, on the other planet projecting himself. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I was just thrilled, right? And then he dies. And I'm like, okay, well, what the hell was that?
Yo, do you know what Colin Trevorrow? I feel bad. I kind of wanted to. Not that I'm saying it's going to be better because the grass is always greener.
Yeah.
Do you know what Colin Trevorrow's version of the last episode 9?
So
you know, so for the viewers who don't know,
yeah.
Originally Colin Trevorrow at the beginning, they had already laid out who was going to direct what in the beginning. It was J.J. Abrams was going to write and direct 7, Rian Johnson 8, and Colin Trevorrow 9. Colin Trevorrow originally wrote a script called The Duel of the Fates. After The Rise of Skywalker came out, he revealed his script because they basically what it is because they didn't lose money. They made money, but they didn't make as much as Force Awakens for Last Jedi. People were so disappointed. Kathleen Kennedy fired Colin Trevorrow and she was like, got J.J. Abrams. And she was like, people seem to like you. Will you fix it? So Colin Trevorrow released online his script. He's like, this is the movie I would have made. And not everything is great in it, but one of the things he does in it, Luke Skywalker has a much bigger part. Luke Skywalker's Force Ghost is in it, but not to help Rey. Her haunts Kylo Ren. Wow. Do you know what this?
Yeah.
So remember, and he says that before he dies. He actually says, "If you kill me, I'll never be able to leave you alone."
Yep.
And then when he dies, he's like, "See you around, kid."
Yeah.
So the next one, he was supposed to constantly be a ghost around, following Kylo Ren around, harassing him. That would have been amazing.
I saw concept art of him holding his lightsaber blade in his hand, like Kylo Ren's lightsaber blade in his hand. Like, you know, like could we get that? Like the concept art even of Duel of the Fates looked fantastic. Rey had a dual bladed lightsaber.
Yeah.
You know, like we saw Finn, you know, holding up, you know, the Republic flag, like he was leading the charge. He was another missed opportunity. Poor Finn.
Don't get me started on that one.
I
man.
mean,
they turned the black guy into a space janitor. Oh
man, look. So Finn, they very clearly had an arc for Finn. I don't know much about it, but it's very clear that if he wasn't going to be the Jedi in the story, he was at least going to be a Force sensitive trainee. It's very clear. If you look back at The Force Awakens, the very beginning, when the stormtroopers are executing everyone and him and Kylo Ren have a moment, right? That's clearly Kylo Ren looking at him like, you know, something's going on here, right? Yeah.
The very name of the thing, The Force Awakens, and Snoke saying, he's like, do you feel it? There's been an awakening in the Force, in both the light and the dark. The Force is what allowed him to break his mind control. It's so obvious. And you're right. Kylo sensed him awake. The Force was awakening in him. Even Maz Kanata being like, you have a weapon, take this. Maz Kanata is super wise in the Force. She's not going to give an idiot a lightsaber.
Exactly.
That's his weapon. So like the fact that they didn't follow, and once again, that's Rian Johnson. Because remember, in Last Jedi, the characters were doing fine in this episode 7. In Last Jedi, both Oscar Isaac, you know, both Poe Dameron and Finn, their storylines have nothing to do with anything.
Nope.
They're just wasting time on the screen. They do adventures that don't pan out, and they're just running around like idiots. It doesn't further anything.
Filler.
So, And clearly, and so what I'm saying is, JJ, although I respect and love the guy for what he tried to give Finn back that thing where he was supposed to be force sensitive. Let me bring them back, but he couldn't do it in just one movie, as you could tell. But if he was able to project that in two, and then make him like actually a training Jedi in the third, that would have been amazing.
And it would have been fantastic, man. You see Finn and Rey like teaming up together, like having another 2-on-1, like lightsaber duel would be fantastic, man. Like
I think of a bunch of what ifs. Have you ever thought about this? Like what ifs? So I've got a what if for you. This is a what if that I think might have also made the Last Jedi better. So here's the thing. My big question is like, why is Rey good? You ever think about that? So Luke is good because he was raised on a farm and his parents are just like religious, like whatever guys.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that he was raised with these morals.
Yep.
And probably they gave him more morals because of who his father was. They're like, we don't want another psychopath, right? But Rey makes no sense. She's raised practically in slavery, at least verbally and emotionally abused by this big fat monster.
Yeah.
Clark Plunk. She's living alone, lonely as hell. Why does she choose light? And in the beginning of The Last Jedi, when Luke is training with her, he goes, you went directly to the dark. When he told her to open herself to the dark, to the thing. Yep. And she has the hots for Kylo. So here's the what if that I would like to see, which would have been a great ending. What if at the end of that thing, after he kills Snoke and he says, take my hand and together we'll rule. What if she did take it? That would have been the coolest thing. And so the movie of this next one could have started out where they're both like the king and queen of the galaxy, evil doers. She could be evil Rey. And it could have been Finn trying to turn her back. I
mean, look, better than what we got already.
I think a lot of different things. Like you know what else would be a cool thing?
What's that?
I thought yeah, remember the destruction of the school?
Yes.
What if they had started the story there?
Oh God, that would have been. Please.
Where he starts with a school, and like for the first act, he has this Jedi school, and then he has this thing with his nephew, and there's a whole fight, and he has to slaughter the students, and maybe a couple of students could live, and Rey could finally find them. Something like that. That might have been a more interesting take, where to start the story.
If they would have started The Force Awakens with that, and then ended with her finding Luke again, I mean, take my money. Just take it. Yeah. Like it's just
so many missed opportunities.
I mean, come on. And hindsight is 20/20. But then that's why I'm so glad we have what we have now, because The Mandalorian. Hold on, let me correct that. Not just The Mandalorian, but in retrospect, the Clone Wars and Rebels and The Mandalorian have all saved Star Wars, in my opinion. They are easily the best things to have happened since this whole thing started. So I do agree, because I'm going to tell you, I think you remember, this was back when I was living in Charlottesville. Mm-hmm. I used to religiously watch Clone Wars. And so I remember it used to premiere somewhat late on a Friday. It would be like Friday at like 9 or something on Cartoon Network. And I remember everyone would want me to go to the bar and go hang out. And I could never told anyone. I would tell you, but not to other people, why I wasn't going out. Really, I had to stay home until I watched my Clone Wars before I could go out and have Friday fun, right? It was the pregame, baby.
So,
yeah.
The thing is, I think Mandalorian's another level. It's another level than these other shows. Not just because of quality, but because it's live action and it's vague enough. Like everyone's watching it. Moms are watching it. Dads who don't watch the cartoons or know anything about the EU are watching it and are into it. And there's something for everyone in it. It's weird. Like moms love Baby Yoda. They'll watch a space Western, right? It's so weird. But then of course we know what's going on. Like, my brother loves the show. He has no idea who Ahsoka is. He's never watched any cartoons. Wow. He loves seeing her.
Yeah.
He actually said, he's like, that was the best episode. That chick was awesome. And so they are producing something that everyone can assess.
Exactly.
And it's good that you might know the extra stories of Ahsoka, but even if you don't, you're still going to have fun.
Exactly. This is the way it should have been done from the jump, because it's so inclusive, but it's inclusive in a way that is not annoying and try-hardy and pandering. I mean, if let's go to that episode, the Jedi, right? look at it. Like Ahsoka was an absolute monster that entire time, right? And everyone loved her for it. And then if you even look at the end of the episode, right, you have her dueling against, whatever Morgan Ainsbeth, whatever her name was, right? Two badass females having this fantastic fight at the end, and nobody's looking sideways about it. Like, that's fantastic. Oh, and they're women. Oh, that's even better, right? Like it does things in the way that they should be done, giving the people what they want without shoving it down their throats, right?
Right. And I've been trying to figure out this whole thing about women, right? So I'm trying to understand why, like, how they're the those guys who are like those misogynists, some of them are YouTubers, podcasters, whatever, guys who just go after women protagonists. They're like, F this, they can't, blah, blah, blah. They hate Batwoman, they hate Rey, they hate blah, blah, blah. And they hate Captain Marvel. They particularly hate Captain Marvel.
They really do.
They hate that chick. And I thought I knew what the formula was. Like, I thought that, like, maybe Captain Marvel is like, and I'm sorry if I offend anyone out there, Captain Marvel was the rendition of like what a feminist might think being a hardcore feminist is, which means you hate men. Men are all holding you down, and I want to fight the misogynists, right? The patriarchy. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman is just a woman who happens to fight evil.
That's right.
And her story isn't a message about how men held her back. And I think that might be what that is. And so if you look at Captain Marvel in her story, like, the entire movie is about how men are scum. The only good man in it is Samuel L. Jackson, and he's represented as like a nice grandfather. Her granddad's here to help her. Right?
Loves the cat, Yeah,
it's just like this kind of silly thing. But like Wonder Woman's just like, there are men are good and some are bad, and I happen to be killing Ares, who happens to be a man. It's not a thing.
Precisely.
And Ahsoka's not trying to stop the patriarchy, and neither is Bo-Katan.
Exactly. Like they are independent, badass women, and that's as far as it goes. Like, they're badasses who happen to be women. And speaking about that episode, watching it over again, the combat and stuff that they got with her, I feel was spot on. She likes to hold her lightsabers backwards.
With her,
with Ahsoka,
because I had a problem with the magistrates fighting.
Did you? Okay, well let's get to that. So what? A part of that I also liked about the episode in general was some of the shots of her just standing there looking badass, like with the wind blowing, and she's just menacingly standing there, and like she'll cut off her lightsabers and she'll disappear, like stuff like that. Like, they just framed her as a badass the entire time.
That opening scene. And what's funny? The original guys who did the first Clone Wars, remember the first Clone Wars movie?
Yes.
The guys who did Samurai Jack. That opening scene reminds me of a Samurai Jack. Remember when Samurai Jack would hide behind trees and then like assassinate people?
Yeah.
That's when she's going around just killing people left and right, but sneaking around. It was great, man. It was
absolutely, man. What was your issue with the final fight of the episode? What was the problem?
So she's not using a spear correctly, and so that is Diana Lee Insanto, whose father is Danny Insanto, and whose godfather was Bruce Lee. Yeah. She is in the like martial arts royalty line. She's a stunt woman who choreographs fights for Hollywood for years. She knows how to use a spear. Why is she using a spear incorrectly? So my whole thing is, when you block, you do not block in the middle of your thing.
Talk about it.
So, so what it is, remember, the point of having a spear is to keep your opponent at ranged.
That's right.
And your weapon would be out, and you're blocking with the blade there and redirecting them. She's not doing that. She's letting Ahsoka get in close. And so if Ahsoka was quick enough, she could easily cut her hands or throat or whatever. So I don't understand why they did that. They're obviously the people who make the show know this.
Yeah. So two things about that. First, that was amazing insight, and I'm about to have you teach the class at some point, because that was fantastic technical advice. That's literally advice. We use a variant of the saber called the pike. It's literally a long lightsaber hilt with a short end blade. And that's one of the things. Just use the range and don't do all crazy flippy stuff. Just use the range. Don't let them get in, because you lose your hands and your knuckles and your wrists. I agree 100%. I don't know. All I can really think of, maybe it's just dramatic pauses. I have no idea.
Well, there were these pauses. You're right. They were dramatic, where she would block, and then they look at each other in the eyes. and all that stuff. And it's just like keep her at range, yo. What are you doing?
Exactly. And look, there's an aspect about that episode that people have not touched on that I appreciate, and that a homie of mine has a very dope theory that I want to share. So the whole Beskar versus lightsaber thing, right?
Okay.
So when it first happened, I feel like a lot of people shrugged it off, like, oh, Beskar can deflect the lightsaber, right? That was one of the first things I noticed.
That was so starting,
wasn't it? It's like,
sure
whoa,
that was going to work.
His hands, his arms are still there. His armor's still intact. Like, yeah. So I love that aspect. And then the fact that he ended up getting that Beskar spear from her at the end, which was the bounty he was going to get for capturing her at the end of the episode. So he gets this Beskar spear, and it's clear to me that they're setting up a fight between Din Djarin and then Moff Gideon, right? And that'll be the way that he's able to stand up against it. But the theory that one of my homies have, which I appreciate, is for the listeners who don't know, in order to become a Jedi, one of the things you need to do is you have to forge your own lightsaber, right?
Right.
So
it's one of the last things you do.
It's one of the last things you do.
Jedi.
So the dark saber was forged by Tar Vizsla, who was the only Mandalorian in history who ever became an actual Jedi.
Mandalore the First, right?
Mandalore the First. That was his lightsaber. And it has since it left his hands, it's become a indicator of leader over the Mandalorians. Whoever holds it is the leader. So my homie's theory is that when Tar Vizsla forged the dark saber, he did it in a way. Who would understand Beskar more than the Mandalorian, right? So his theory is that this thing is going to be able to cut through Beskar. So when they have this fight, right, he's thinking he's going to be good, but then it's actually going to be a legit threat because this thing is going to be able to actually.
And that's what the black quality of it is. It's different than a normal lightsaber.
Exactly. Like it's actually got an edge, like it's sharp. It's not like kind of cylindrical like a lightsaber.
A true edge and a false edge, unlike a lightsaber that is universal. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a good theory. That's
a good theory. I hope something like that can occur. Could just be typical, Beskar, and I'm cool with that too. But I really enjoyed that theory.
So what one of the things that furthers this is I am unable to determine, or at least it's not in writing, what Pedro Pascal, the actor who plays Mando's martial arts training is. However, I don't know if you saw him in Game of Thrones.
I did not.
So he plays Prince Oberon in Game of Thrones, and he's a great warrior. And there's a time where he has to fight a duel against a guy named a Mountain, and that Mountain is this big, superhumanly big knight in all black armor, and his chosen weapon for Pedro Pascal is a spear, and he uses it correctly and very stylishly in the fight. Pedro Pascal's there. He's doing flowers, and he keeps them at bay. And when he's being overwhelmed, he knows to go attack the feet real low with the thing. He's using it totally correctly. My theory is that I think the reason why they chose a spear is I think the actor is trained in spear.
Oh, okay.
That's probably why that's why they.
That's pretty okay. What I'll do when we're done, I'll check it out. I want to see.
In YouTube, that fight has to be there. I'm sure people put up that fight. It is a great fight.
I will definitely check that out, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we get with Din versus Moff Gideon. Or honestly, we could talk about this next. The more recent episode, we could get a Jedi. The one Grogu. If he managed to commune with someone, I have a suspicion that they're going to show up to help spring him from his prison.
By the finale, right? The finale, they show up. They're like, "I got your call," or whatever.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts on this last?
Wait, hold on. Before you quickly do that, I love this last episode. It's amazing. But I have a theory we got to talk about. Yeah, it has to do with this episode or whatever. But I have a theory about Boba.
Oh, what you got?
So I'm gonna say it, guys. I'm sorry. I have a feeling Boba Fett is going to die. I think he's going to fight Moff Gideon, and he's going to die.
Oh!
I think they have prepped him up to be the badass, and then he's going to go fight Moff Gideon and die, and so that it pumps up why they need to kill him, why they need to avenge Boba's death. So basically what it is because they're giving Boba a limited series on Disney Plus. However, my theory is that they're going to show us what happened over the years that he got out of the Sarlacc pit. Not future stories, but old stories that we miss.
Yeah. Okay. So, absolutely.
And because another problem is if you keep Boba in the thing, he's a one-man army.
Yep.
If he's in the story, they have nothing to fear because he could just kill everybody.
Exactly. He'll undermine Din Djarin too. He'll undermine him. You know,
Right. We need Jin to become the ultimate Mando.
exactly, man. So I love that. First of all, for multiple reasons. For one, I already love Giancarlo Esposito. Right, I think
Everything he does is great.
I mean, and yes, and as Moff Gideon, I mean, he just has this like pompous, I'm better than you, but I can back it up, arrogant air about him. I mean, even in the last episode of the last season, when he just had the receipts on everyone, and he gave us Mando's name, and he just went down this entire list, like the smirk he had the entire time. You just like, I just want to punch this guy in the face, but you couldn't because he messed you up, right? So
Right.
so I love that about this guy, and I think there would be nothing better to promote him as an even bigger villain than have him take out Boba Fett. I mean,
Right. That would put the stakes up super high.
that would make him like some next level stuff right there. So I'm behind that, and I wholeheartedly see where you're going with his limited series. I could completely see them going that route because that's what we all want to see, and they have not given us any of that stuff yet. So that they're saving it. They are.
He definitely has changed as a person from who we know him to be, and he's gone through shit. He almost seems like a monk, right? He's like kind of like wearing robes. He has the melee weapon or whatever, the gaffy stick. I want to see exactly what happens. Obviously, they're being, I love that they put the scars from the Sarlacc on his face.
That's
so they're keeping it real, man.
Like I mean, this is Boba Fett. Like everyone has wanted Boba Fett because I mean, being honest, what did he really do in the original trilogy? I mean, he just stood around and
he's the biggest joke. He's the biggest joke.
Exactly. He got threatened by Darth Vader, and then it is what it is. This was the first time, an actual live action Star Wars or in Disney's canon, just in general, that we've seen this man live up to his reputation. I mean, he took that gaffy stick, and I mean, stormtroopers' helmets were exploding.
Shattered them.
Like, it was merciless. Like he had malicious intent on his face. Like when he jammed like the end of it down on that guy.
See his face. He loves it. He loves it.
It's just like, man. And then when he looks over at the Razor Crest, and you're like, oh, I know what's coming. And Din and I forget her name, but Ming-Na Wen's character, and they're
Fennec Shand.
Fennec Shand. When they're back to back, they're holding them off, but not for long. And
we should just call her Iron Abs.
Iron Abs. Actually, I like that. Let's call her that.
Iron Abs. Yeah.
So what I liked about that part was Din was in front of her, like taking the blast because his armor, and then she's kind of behind him picking
soldiers off.
And then they're getting backed up, and then you just see Boba Fett just come in, right? And then he was already going to work without his armor, but then he pulls out all these things we didn't know he had. Like he sticks his knee up and like
his knee has blasters on it and stuff. Oh my, but I love in his first strike. So he lands behind the soldier, and the soldier is like, what? And he turns around and he backhands him, but he shoots him. Like he wanted him to feel this thing of a backhand before he kills him.
Yeah, it's like a rocket punch, man.
And so I also love at the end after they're all running.
Yeah.
And he shoots the missile. It was so well done. The cinematography on that is great. And it hits it, and it falls into the other one and blows up. And then Din Djarin's like, nice shot. And he goes, well, actually, I was aiming for the other one.
Oh, man. Like just in that 15-10 minutes, Boba Fett that was next level. I mean, the Mandalorian is just reviving all of these characters, in epic ways, and it's a beautiful sight.
Right, and so some people are like ebbing and flowing whether they like what they're redeeming, but I feel like this show has the power to redeem everyone, right? So there's been some attempts, like some hints that they might be talking about Snoke in the experiment episodes, right? And like people are like, why are you dating back? Why are you going to the sequels? And like, obviously they're eventually going to go talk to Luke at some point. I feel like that's the obvious trajectory. At some point he has to at least guest star.
There's no way he's not going to.
And people are like, why don't you just leave it alone? And I'm like, it's impossible to be in Star Wars and not hit these epic stories. Like the First Order is a thing. You're going to have to deal with that. But I think they can redeem it. I think they can actually redeem it because the show is so good.
I mean, this show has just restored my hope in anything being possible. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, look at it like this, man. Me and you have already talked about this, but like I wanted to be clear. Like they have taken Dave Filoni's creation over on the animated side of it and have legitimized it. Like that is canonized now. So in my opinion, anything is possible. I mean, the crossovers we didn't think we would see being this good, I'm for it. I mean, anything can happen. And I could easily see them, redeeming the sequel trilogy easily.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you notice what they did with it's interesting what they're doing with Canon, and I have a feeling that Favreau and Filoni are my kind of guys who like old EU and don't like new EU. So did you see what they did with they did a interesting swap over here?
What's that?
So after Attack on the Clones came out, there was a comic, Star Wars comic about the Mandalorian Civil War.
Okay.
Right. And so it has it has Jango Fett fighting in the Mandalorian Civil War, and he's again, his best friend and his commanding officer is Jaster Morrell, and they're the true Mandalorians, as his symbol shows on his side of his arm, with the skull, that weird skull with the horns, fighting against Death Watch. Right. So, and they have that go down, but later on, people are like, and then later on in the Clone Wars, the show, they have a line from a administrator that Obi-Wan comes and he's like, "Oh, I've seen you Mandalorians in action," and he's like, "Unlikely." He's like, "Yeah, I fought a man named Jango Fett."
Oh yeah.
And he's like, then they go, "That man is no Mandalorian."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, he was dressed like you," and he's like, "Well, we don't know how he got that armor." And so this has created this kind of debate as to what's going on.
Right.
And clearly, Favreau has now confirmed not only that he did fight in the Civil War, but he was a foundling.
That's right. Yeah. I love that.
He had choices of canon, and he chose one over the other.
Yeah. And
he went for it.
And that's the canon I think everybody wanted. That was a game changer. Like, learning Boba Fett's lineage like that. And
Right.
that ties it into Din Djarin, because that's what he is too, right?
Right.
So by the end
So
of
they have
it,
connection.
right? So they're like, they're not probably best friends, but now they're looking at each other like, okay, like
They understand each other.
This is my people here, right? So, so yeah, no, like that's fantastic, and like my hope, in Star Wars as it stands as a property, on that side has been completely restored. On the other side, we talk about
Star Wars fan right now.
I mean, like, and then we look at Fallen Order, like the game. We've talked about that too. I'd love to see Cal Kestis and his crew come over. I don't know what timeline they'd want to do, because I think by this point in the Star Wars universe that the Mandalorian takes place, that's like a few years after. So I mean,
because Fallen Order takes place during the 19 years of darkness.
Yeah,
the Empire ruled.
It's 5 years after Order 66.
So yeah, it's within that horrible time.
Yeah, so that would make him like in his like 40s or something like that. So I mean, like still,
I mean, they didn't get Bo-Katan's age correct. Like,
yeah, she still looks young.
She's young. She's young as hell, and she should be like 50s. And people were saying like wearing the helmet protects her from sun damage, so her skin is fresh. Yo, fans will do anything to explain shit that they
honestly
like,
man. I mean, oh gosh, that's hilarious.
So now that you brought out the Cal Kestis thing, well, I'll get to your question that you asked earlier.
Yeah,
who do we think Baby Yoda contacted? So who are our options right now?
Oh man, so who we got? We got Ezra Bridger, right? Well, Cal Kestis, we don't know what he's up to, but by the end of the game, literally the last line was, "What do we do now?" And then it closes. So he's still out there doing something. And then we have Luke Skywalker. And I guess, I could pull a fast one on us and just have Ahsoka come back.
I hope that's not it, because that wouldn't make any, you know what I mean?
I know.
I go all the way there just to have her come back.
I know.
So yo, I wanna not make a prediction, but a wish.
Okay.
I have no reason to believe that this is the person, but I hope it's Mara Jade.
Oh gosh! Whoa! You pulled one out with that one. Wow!
I honestly really hope that they put Mara Jade in this series at some point.
Wow, man!
Because
that.
I love her so much, and another thing that pissed me off about The Last Jedi, that they decanonize her by doing that. And so here's the thing: there is 30 years that we don't know about Luke's life. He could have been married to her, and then she just died before his school,
That's
at
true.
some point.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, she can still be canonized, but she's a great character. I don't want Luke to die like some celibate weirdo. You know what I'm saying? This entire time Luke Skywalker's an incel. Come on, bro. Come on.
That is fantastic. Luke got some loving at some point,
No, I would love it if she's there, and then at some point when they finally meet Luke, that's their introduction.
Oh, I like it, man. Like, give us more EU. Like, give it to us, please. Spoon feed me. My mouth is open. I want it.
And
right?
remember, she was the first one to rock the purple lightsaber.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. So
I just wish. I would love to see her. I think that would be fantastic, and I wish they would have her background intact, right? Like when she's like, the Emperor's. I think that was it, right? She's like the Emperor's badass assassin, right?
Yeah.
Like that would be another badass female we could have, a legit one, not a try hard one. So that would be cool to see Mara Jade. I honestly don't know, man. Like at this point in The Mandalorian, like I don't know what to expect. I really don't, and that's a good thing. Like I don't know what's gonna happen. I really don't.
This last episode was so unpredictable.
Yeah.
That Boba Fett. This would be the one with Boba Fett. I didn't even think they were going to get the Tython in one episode.
They've really been going for it, huh, man? Like the last one, I didn't expect them to go straight into Ahsoka in the first scene, right?
And what's real?
And then now, Boba Fett just shows up. They go straight to Tython, and then
And what's super funny is like they're like, what was the whole thing? Like what's super funny is the beginning of the season, everyone was saying that they're like, all these are fillers. Enough with fillers. They had one or two fillers, and then the rest is pure plot and action, and like new characters every week, and new, you know what I mean? Like, exactly. People will never be satisfied, but right now this is the highest caliber show we've ever had in terms of special effects and drama, and
like, and what I love, and here, this is what I think is the best part. So it's clear to me that Disney Plus is salvaging Star Wars as we know it, right? But the fact that The Mandalorian is so good and so successful means to me that Disney's not going to be afraid to invest in this whole idea, right? So when we get our Ahsoka show, which we know we're going to get, and when we get our Boba Fett standalone, I heard the Obi-Wan show is happening early next year, and I heard Hayden Christensen's coming back, and I heard there's going to be flashbacks with him.
Yeah,
Clone Wars, and we have
amazing
these things. Like you just know we're going to be in store for just these good things. And as far as I'm concerned, keep it on Disney Plus. I don't need to go to the movies anymore. Just keep it on Disney Plus and keep the continuity intact. And
although 2024 is supposed to have the Taika Waititi movie.
Oh yeah, he is.
Taika Waititi's doing it, and he claims he already wrote it. He said he wrote it during the pandemic. So here the question is, what is that going to be about? Because it's not episode 10. It's a side story, but he has not revealed who or what it's about. I
mean, look, it's not going to be an actual episode. First of all, Taika Waititi's episode from the last season was still, I think it even stands up to what we got now. Like it was jaw-droppingly game-changing. He's so good. He's good at everything. Yeah. The fact that they gave him his own movie is not surprising. And I fully expect, especially being a standalone movie, that it's going to be fantastic. So I am very excited. In fact, out of all of these new movies, I think Rogue One, in my opinion, I enjoyed Rogue One probably the most as a standalone. It wasn't part of the episodes because it felt like an actual war movie, right? Like I felt like I was watching a legit war go on, right? And then like it had actual death, right? Like we got attached to these characters, and then we lose them, and the stakes are high, and then we get the badass cameo at the end. So I'm all about the standalone movies. We don't have to touch on Solo if you don't want to. I think everyone forgets about that one. But I'm excited to see what he has in store. That'd be pretty cool.
What would be an interesting movie, which they can do in the future? They've already set this up, man. This is really good. when Mandalorian is done, they could end up having a trilogy of movies 200, 300 years in the future where it's Baby Yoda as an adult, but young. He's not a master yet. He's just a Jedi. And they could have not only adventures from him, but they don't have to be hindered by the normal timeline because it's so far in the future. Kind of like KOTOR going far in the past could avoid the Emperor and the Death Star because it was past. This would be the same concept. So far in the future, it doesn't matter.
So you want to know something? That idea is so good that I am so certain that they're if it hasn't been written yet, they're talking about it. That is fantastic. Because that's a way to keep Grogu in this whole thing, right? And then level him up and then keep everything going at the same time. That's brilliant.
Give him his own trilogy, you know what I'm saying? And I think we've all wanted to know what Yoda was like as a young man, but right now we love Grogu, so I want to see Grogu as a young man. So young Jedi, who's still capable of mistakes. He's not a master. He's not like the master of everything, but like he's capable of mistakes, but his adventures, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what if he walks around like with his own Mandalorian helmet on? That'd be ridiculous. But I mean, hey, you know.
That'd be ridiculous. But have you seen people draw like, you know, a deviant art and all the stuff of like images of like young Yoda? Some of them are good. There's like one where he has the samurai hair, where like black thick hair, but he like makes a ponytail.
I saw that one. That one looked pretty cool. I like that one. Good. Yeah, that one was pretty good.
It's such potential. This whole thing, what they're doing right now, is such potential.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yeah. So here's my whole thoughts. I believe that Bo-Katan's story is. People think she's going to get a spinoff or something. I think it's going to continue on The Mandalorian.
You do? Okay.
You know why? Her main story is to get the Darksaber, which is Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon is clearly the Mandalorian territory. And she's a Mandalorian. She's the heiress of the throne. Her story is a Mandalorian story, so it should be in his. Not in a sideshow. But I believe Ahsoka and Ezra and Thrawn is a side story. They can make their own, go on their own adventures and deal with him.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I see that 100%. And yeah, to me, like, by the time Ahsoka left, it was clear to me that, like, okay, that was she's getting her own.
Felt like a one-off, but she's gonna do her own thing. And he's like, he wasn't even there to hear the name Thrawn.
Right, so he didn't even know.
Doesn't even know what's going. That's some personal thing that's beyond him. He's got his own adventures to do, and she's got her own.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm into it. You know what I hope they do?
What's that?
You know how they fix things like in CGI later on. I'm hoping, this is what I'm saying. What is it? Leku? Is that what they call those?
Leku, yep.
Yeah, I hope that they digitally make hers bigger later on down the road. Yeah. Because that was one thing that pissed me off, because every time she's had an image of herself in the future, and we've seen other Togrutas, they're supposed to have big ones. And the fact that it hasn't grown.
From the old movies.
Crazy. And what I'm saying is, like, I understand that for the costume, they couldn't do it and have fight scenes. Like, I understand. That must be hard. But they could digitally put them on.
That's true. I mean, clearly they have the budget for it. I would love to see that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if they can remove, like, the production guy in the background of that one episode, then I'm sure
they did that within, like, a day. If you go back to that episode on Disney Plus, he's gone.
He's gone. That is so sad. But,
yeah.
I mean, hey, it is what it is. We had fun.
But it actually happens to everybody, man.
That's what I hear. I mean, you remember the cup from Game of Thrones? Like, you remember the Starbucks cup? Like, there you go.
Harry Potter, there's a group of kids. There's a part where they pan over and they look at all the kids, all the students, and all the students are there, and there's a cameraman standing in the pile of them. And so, like, there's just a lot of that going on. It happens. Right. You can't be perfect every time.
Yeah. Yeah. But, so
I can't. So you got any predictions for finale?
So I do have a feeling we're gonna have, like, everyone who's a character in The Mandalorian. Like, we're gonna have Carl Weathers come back. Gina Carano's clearly, he just mentioned the kid was in trouble, and she's perked up, so she'll be there. You're gonna have Boba Fett, and then you're gonna have Iron Abs. I think they're all gonna. And then Bill Burr. Bill Burr's character's coming back.
Burr.
So yeah, like, this is gonna be this joining of the forces, and then it's gonna be this epic thing, and I can't wait. And we don't know for sure that someone force sensitive, whoever is gonna show up to help, but it does seem like a possibility. So whoever that is, like, I'd love to see that, and have them all get together and
Like I can't believe, because I know they're gonna pull such a switch where no one's gonna know, see it coming who it is. Everyone thinks it's Ezra right now. I'm not convinced it's Ezra.
Yeah, that's the obvious. That's the obvious choice, you know.
I think Cal Kestis is high though. Cal Kestis is high in there.
Would love it to be Cal, because Cal Kestis is one of those characters that's the easiest to transition in. You don't have to recast him. Like the kid Cameron Monaghan, who was Cal Kestis, he
looks
voice,
just like him.
He did the face capture. They used his face. So it's him. Like he did the voice.
Yeah,
and
basically just hand him a lightsaber and he's Cal Kestis.
And he's Cal Kestis, right? So literally, you just take him and you bring him in, and his crew. I love his crew.
I love that robot. I love that little robot he's got. On
BD1, his little droid companion. He rolls with a Night Sister, right? Like that. That's pretty cool, right? So, and then he has another Jedi friend, you know, Seer, who was a Jedi who survived the Purge.
Right.
So, like, you know, you have her too, and yeah, like, I just can't wait, man. I'd love for it to be Cal Kestis. I really would.
Yeah.
So,
yo, before we wrap this up, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you believe in the JJ cut?
Man, look, so here's my thing, man. If we get a movie release or any kind of media release and there's some kind of extra cut, my nose is already turned up, okay? That crap is so irritating to me. I hope it doesn't exist. I'm on that camp. I hope it's not even real. Like, I just want it to be done. You know, I remember you talked about the X-Men on the previous podcast, how you want it to be over and done. That's me. I just want it to be dead. I want it to be finished, and I hope it doesn't exist. That's my whole thoughts. What about you? What do you think?
Well, clearly, from my face when you said that, I literally my mouth dropped. I was like, I want it more than anything, and so like, where's my phone? So yeah, when I had heard that it was like a thing, or a possible thing, I had changed my screen to a I don't know if you can see that.
I can.
And I had decided that I was like, I'm never gonna take this wallpaper down or change it until the JJ cut is released.
Oh God.
Because I needed it that bad. And what I'm saying is, I don't understand why they do the voice work of the ghosts, but not just simply put them in the camera. They just need to be in a shot for like a second.
That was so stupid. That was
just put them in a costume, and so like I'm saying, like you could digitally put the ghosts in. You could digitally put the ghosts in. I know for a fact. You know about the Eye of Webbish Bog.
I don't know if I know.
So, there's the part, you know, when he goes to, in the beginning, Kylo Ren goes to Mustafar, right? And he's tearing stuff up and he's fighting these guys. There's supposed to be an extended cut of that, and it has been filmed because there's like on set, like pictures of that, of him and the Knights of Ren fighting those fanatics, and the fanatics are supposed to protect Vader's castle. Those are the guys he was fighting. And so before he goes there, there's a bog right over there, and he goes over to the bog, and there's like a sleeping giant. You've probably seen not fan art, but like the art book has it. There's a sleeping giant and a spider alien creature sucking its like life out of its head, like perched on it, and it talks to Kylo Ren. I am deadly serious. Look this up.
Oh my gosh.
It calls itself the Eye of Webbish Bog. And it explains what a Wayfinder is, and that's Vader's Wayfinder. He's like, only two were made, blah, 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 blah. And they filmed it. And people on set, like people who worked on the thing, like the puppet guys are like, yeah, we made it. And they filmed it. And it didn't get into the cut of the movie. And look this up. The Eye of Webbish Bog. It's like some sort of oracle creature that used to live at Vader's castle. A dark force.
That is crazy. Oh my gosh, man.
And I know they filmed it. I know for a fact they filmed it. And so another thing is, do you remember when Rey is training or whatever, and suddenly she's distracted, and they just show you flashes of things that already happened? Mm-hmm. And then she's like, I need to stop training. I feel verklempt or whatever.
Right.
So the truth is she, and later on in the movie, she tells Finn's like, what's bothering you? Why are you annoyed? And she's like, I've had a vision of who sits on the throne of the Sith. Right? She says that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yo, they actually filmed that because online you can find non-digitally altered actual things of Daisy Ridley dressed as Dark Rey sitting on the throne of the Sith. So they actually had filmed that. At that moment, she was supposed to have a vision of herself on the throne of the Sith.
Oh snap! Okay.
They definitely filmed it, and for some reason they chose not to use it. And I'm like, if this footage exists, I demand to see it.
I got you.
As a Star Wars fan, I demand to see it.
Yeah.
Yo, if they want to do an extended cut and charge me $50, $100, whatever, I will pay it.
I understand.
I demand to see it.
So I get you. I guess, from my perspective, I guess I've just been so jaded, man. I just can't. But I will say this. Even throughout, this journey of the sequel trilogies, because it actually lines up with when I started, this whole journey with lightsaber combat, and some of us call it saber martial arts. So when I started with this whole journey, the sequel trilogies had just kind of been announced, but not dropped yet. So like I've kind of been along with it, and even though those have been rough, the journey that I've had on the other side has been so fantastic. So in a way, I'm gonna have very fond memories of them. When you think about it from that aspect. Just in these like 5-6 years, this whole thing has, it's grown in such a fantastic way, even in the wake of that. And, I guess in a way, like you mentioned when we started up, it kind of has kept the whole idea of Star Wars alive. And then the beauty of that too, even, is you don't even have to be a Star Wars fan to even like participate. I have a few members who may have seen a couple of movies here or there. I have one guy specifically, Joe. He's one of my senior guys. He always says, like, when Star Wars gets brought up, he just smiles. He says, "I just like to fight." Like that's all he says. Like he just Joe, what's your favorite Star Wars character? I just like to fight. Like that's just his answer, right?
And that's a good answer. That's
it's a good answer, and it's for everyone. And then like the whole aspect of this whole thing is combat's one part of it. Okay. You also have flow, right? Like these things look fantastic. You learn how to flow with it, toss it around, you make these cool patterns and you're flipping it. And it's just like this whole sort of, cool other art to it, right? And then you also have form work. The way I teach lightsaber combat is I do it the same way it is in the lore. I do multiple sorts of methods. First method is accelerations. That's solo work. So you work on your accelerations, which leads to velocities. Velocities are when you do drills with a partner to learn how to do the moves, the living, moving target, right? And then you move on to actual sparring. There's different types of sparring. There's continuous sparring, where you just go and you go and you go until time. There's tournament sparring, where you actually score points until there's a winner. And then we have what I call battle sparring, and that's the more immersive part, where you have target zones, and you get hit in the hand, you lose a hand, you only use one. You get hit in the leg, you have to stand where you are. You get hit in the head, you lose a fight. You get hit in the chest, you lose a fight, because those are kill shots. And finally, you have Duel, and as a traditional martial artist like myself, that's essentially forms. So each form of lightsaber combat, determination form, contention form, all of those, they each have their own separate Duel. Okay. And that also includes the exotic weapons department, which is Jarkai, double sabers, saber staff, Darth Maul, saber pike, long hilt, short blade like a spear. And then you have the crossguard saber, which we all know very well. And
you have guys dual wielding lightsabers.
Yes, that is
with efficiency.
Yes, so yes, that is how.
When Palpatine in Rise of the Skywalker says, "I am all the Sith," what does he mean by that?
Oh my gosh. He means that J.J. Abrams doesn't fully understand Star Wars, and that line. No, I'm joking. So I mean, to be honest, man, I don't know. Like, if I interpret that I am all the Sith, I guess he is the equinox of all the previous Sith that come before him. Like, he is the pinnacle of what they are. Like, he's years and years and years of skill and knowledge like materialized into one person. That's my thought.
Okay. So, basically, there's a lot of vagaries in that film.
Too many, if you ask me.
Too many. Like, I am Snoke. What does that mean exactly? You want to explain that? You know what I mean? But like, I am all the Sith. So here's my theory on it.
Mhm.
Is it possible? You know how Jedi's, like, when they die, if they're enlightened enough or whatever, sometimes it's training, sometimes it's just enlightenment. They can come back as a Force ghost and help those they love, and they become these separate entities or whatever. But in this, the Darksiders being opposite to that, my thought is, like, does that mean, like, when they die, he enslaves their souls and they become his bitch in the afterlife? And, like, is it possible that, like, Dooku, Maul, and all these guys are, like, just his bitches, like spirits that, like, he uses as his...
I mean, look, it is entirely possible. It is entirely possible. I will say this. The Sith are quite efficient in the way that, they train their ranks. Because you know about the rule of two, right? How there can only be a master and apprentice. And the only way you can become the master is if you kill your, current master, right? Think about that over decades of time. Like how powerful that bar keeps getting, right? Like the most badass of badass kills
the
a
most
badass,
powerful
and
guy.
they become a badass, right? So if you think about it over thousands of years, I mean, that turns out a pretty efficient killer, So,
but that also made me think, like, maybe that's how, like, he's so much better than every Jedi that ever lived. Like, he's able to fight 5 or 6 of them at the same time. He's able to do all sorts of crazy things because, like, he's using the power of, like, dead Sith souls.
It's not diluted.
His powers,
right? What I mean? It's all in him. It's not like diluted amongst ranks, right? It's just
he is the Sith. Rey's just a girl, but he is the Sith.
The Sith.
So, well, thank you for joining me. That's all the time we have for today. We're entering December, so it's Christmas time. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
You too, man. Thank you.
So everyone can find him at it's Saber Light Knights.
That's right.
You can find him on Facebook. Where else can we find you, Courtney?
So Facebook, Instagram, and then also on saberlightnights.com, the website. Also on YouTube as well. The channel's just kind of a newer thing. It's starting to get more stuff added to it, but we're on there now, and there's constant content.
Yeah, if you guys are in the Charlottesville area and you're looking for something like, if you're looking for general martial arts, but this is mostly weapon martial arts, but if you're looking for that, great education you're going to get, and you get to do your fandom right there. So please check them out. They train in multiple different spots, but the Charlottesville area, please check out Courtney Monroe and everything that he does. Do you have anything to tell the kids in the world before we sign off?
Oh man. Hey, keep your dreams alive. Anyone ever told you couldn't be a Jedi, they lied to you. You can. And I can help you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I will see. We're signing off. Love you all. This is Voice of the Fat Man. Just remember to keep tuning in for more reviews and Star Wars interviews, discussions about the Mandalorian, sci-fi in general, and other shenanigans. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And remember to keep tuning in. Until next time, ciao for now.